Going straight into it, I want to talk about race. I want a bit of balance. You know, I don't think there's a lot of it about. So I want to go. Just want to talk. Go when I do history. I like going straight to the horse's mouth. The people that actually lived, not the historians that wrote the books, because they usually write the books of their perspective, and they're usually people that actually live there. So I want to. First thing is there's two young girls, so I'm going to read their letters. Okay. First one is. Since I was constrained to leave my long-loved home, my friends, which I cannot ever give myself the least promise to return to, I am well enjoyed of good health since I left Randolph. When I left Randolph, I went to Rockingham and stayed there for 3 days and was bought by a man by the name of Groover, and he brought me to Georgia, and he kept me about 9 months, and he, being a trader, sold me to a man by the name of Rhymes, and he sold me to a man by the name of Lester, and he owned me for 4 years, and he said he will keep me until death. Dear mistress, I cannot tell you my feelings on how bad I wish to see you and old boss and Miss Rael and mother. I wish you gave my love to old boss, Miss Rael and Balaam, and gave my manifold love to my mum and brothers and sister, and please tell them to write to me so I may hear. That's the first one, and you can tell it's pitiful that this poor girl, she was sold so many times. I mean, you can't even go there, can you? Think that people actually live like this. She was obviously taken away from the people that kept her the first time that she was happy with, which obviously all of her mum and their brothers and everything, they were all still there, and she was taken away. She was told by his family, you're never going to go back, you're never going to see them. You can't even go, you can't imagine it. You cannot imagine it, can you? And here's the other little girl, right? So far, every day starts with the same. Nobody talks, nobody smiles. We just wake up 4 in the morning and go for breakfast, a stout slice of bread with a cloudy water. You have to eat it or you go hungry. All around people have sickly coughs, which makes me pray I don't fall ill. I miss my family so much. Nobody here comforts me or or be my friend. They're too scared to talk. We are all dressed in the same tatty robes, with itchy clothes. In a cold, dark frost, we have to walk for 5 miles until we arrive at a cold, bare room. Inside are piles of old rope, and we spend the entire day pulling threads out. We're not even told why. The room stinks, and we all stink, and our hands are raw and burnt. They're cold, and some of us cry. The master tells us to stop making noises, and he takes 2 of the children away, and we haven't seen them since. And then they have more. We have in the evening we have more cold water, and we have a portion each and stout bread. And then we have to go back to work till late, doing the rubbing up with the hands. But I'm skipping a bit, as you can see. By the time we get back, we're all tired and hungry. Another slice of bread and a cup of cloudy brown water. I share a room with 50 other girls, and we all have a box to sleep in and a blanket that doesn't really keep the cold out. So this girl, she's the same. She's 4:30 in the morning. Poor little love. They wake her up. Then she has to walk 5 miles. She doesn't even talk to anybody because she's so scared where she is. Yeah, and that's her life. That's where she's going to stay. And these places, they were called workhouses, and they were here. They were in this. They were in England and all over actually, but yeah, they were here, and people actually dreaded going in. They would commit suicide rather than going to a workhouse. When people were really poor and they couldn't afford, they get into dire straits. These places were encouraged to be cruel. Very clever. They used to encourage because they didn't want people to go into workhouses because obviously they've got to feed them. They didn't want them to go in there because they could get the labour very cheaply outside and exploit. But obviously, some for illness, or they had loads of children. You know, mothers would be widowed, and that they didn't have any. They didn't have any option. They had to go. So they were forced labour, and that's where they stayed. Yeah, and they even had it set out so that the windows were 6 feet up in the air with sloping sills so they couldn't climb up and see outside. That's how, you know. So yeah, that was the slavery over here. The other people that were really poor, again, it's the vulnerable, isn't it? It's the vulnerable that, you know, the worst in society, like they were over in Africa and Nigeria, you know, places like that where you get the vulnerable tribes, they're vulnerable, exploit, get, you know, and it's the same over here. They used to, if somebody was, if you committed a crime which meant really stealing bread, you were sent over to the colonies, and that was it. You were there as slaves, literally, as the colonies. In Australia, as you know, a lot of them, you know, they're all ex-cons from over here. But a lot of them that didn't commit crime at all, they were then what they were called indentured servants. They would sign themselves over to get passage to get out of the hell they were living in. They would sign themselves over thinking they were going to get a better life abroad over in America. They would be a servant to somebody and until they paid their debt off as a promise that they could have a bit of land afterwards. Unfortunately, because they were so vulnerable, these indentured documents, they would get passed from one person to another person and then another person. So you'd find this person, you know, these people would go over and they'd find them indefinitely in the service. They couldn't get out, you know, they couldn't, I mean, they would be criminalised. So they were slaves under a different name, indentured servants, they were slaves. So yeah, so that was the day, that was the times that they lived in, you know. And the slavery, you know, it came to an end. It came to an end. And there, but before that, you know, when you look at it, there was no good side to this. You know, everybody says, "Oh, you know, they're whites, the slavers." Well, you know, the blacks in their countries, the chiefs, the chiefs in their countries, they were the ones that used to round up the vulnerable, their own people. They would round up their own people in different tribes, and who got them to the ships? It was their own people that did it. So yeah, there's no goodies in this story. There's no goodies, you know. They abolished slavery in 1807. Believe it or not, these workhouses went until 1930. So they got away with this horrendous practice. I think, you know, I've got a feeling as well that these workhouses came about. I could be wrong. But as I remember, they got bought about by a vicar. Yeah, that's the church for you. Yeah, you usually find the churches entangled in all this shit. So you had transportation to the colonies, you had workhouses, you had indentured servants, all the same thing. And then you had the slavery over there. Yeah, and I mean, in these workhouses, they took a family, they used to separate the men from the women from the children. Concentration camps, really, I think. You know, that's what it sounded like to me anyway. And it wasn't, you know, it wasn't until 1842, imagine it, 1807, slavery was abolished. In 1842, 35 years after, we decided to abolish, to say, well, you know, that we would prohibit children from working under the age of 9. So you had these poor little devils under the age of 9 before, and they would be doing the shittiest of jobs. They were killed in factories. They were squished in cotton mills and everything else in the machinery. Look at the stories. They were down the mines. They were. Even your own grandfather, when he was young, when he was very young, you know, asbestos, how deadly. He used to lag pipes because he was tiny. He used to get in and he used to lag the pipes, and that was that was in the 30s. So yeah, with asbestos, that was him. So yeah, exploitation. Get it into your heads. This isn't black and white. This is exploitation of poor and the vulnerable, and it always has been since going back to Sumerian times, Romans and everything else, and it's still going on now. It is still going on now. And I'll tell you another two. I'll give you another two things where you go, yeah, white and black. The Windrush. How evil was that? You know, I think it was about 83 people. You know, if you don't know what the Windrush is when they said that they were illegal to be here. People that have been living here for God knows how long. You know, some of them were 40 years. They were sending them back to a place. I mean, this was their home, and they were sending them back to a country they didn't even know. And now, even now, I think there was about 83 they were sent back, and 34 of them are still missing. They don't know where they are. And this is in this day and age. This is the government's now. And then you've got the other side of it, where you've got the grooming gangs. You've heard of the grooming gangs and everything. I mean, where they were with the little white girls, that's been going on because they can't talk about race. That's been going on 30 years. And I think it was 19,000 last year that they found that it's been there. It's still going on. It's actually, they're still doing it. But they won't mention it. They won't talk about it because it's too delicate. It's too, no, mustn't talk about it. But they had, they were convicted, and these men. Now this is the ridiculous. You got this Windrush where they've sent these people that are living perfectly all right over here, nothing, sent them back. Then you've got these evil buggers that they've been convicted, and they say they're going to be deported, which is right. You don't want them here, do you? You know, don't want raping 11-year-old, and it's what it is. They're leaving, having babies, giving babies to these girls at 13 and 14. 18 months after these chaps lost a court battle, they're still walking the streets of Rochdale. I think they're probably still watching them. One of the girls that actually had a baby by one of these blokes bumped into him in the supermarket, thinking that he'd been sent home. I mean, how horrific is that? So there, you got it. Black, white. You still got what have these things all got in common? These young girls, most of them, they come from children's homes. They were the vulnerable. They were the ones nobody listened to. So yeah, you're talking about the vulnerable. Yeah, then you go for. Let's go to London, because everything's happening in London at the moment. So let's have a look at London, because the poorest areas in London, they're like Tower Hamlets, Newham. That's where I live, Newham, Hackney, and you look at it and you say, right, 44%. Now you work this out. Does this make sense? Living in this day and age, 44% are ethnic minorities, right? And you know you've got an ethnic minority mayor. So you think they'd be in a pretty good place, wouldn't you? You think, they'd be looked after. You look after your own. Yeah, they do that. 42 knife offences per day, practically, with these young kids. The number of youth clubs have been halved since 2011. You can blame that on austerity. I'll tell you why you can't though. They've been halved since 2011. That's a loss of about 104 sites. That's a lot. 104 places that kids can't go anymore. You shut off. So what do? You're going to be on the streets. They've got 170,000. That's 1 in 52, more or less, there, without a place to live in. And the homeless, right? They've got, now, you've got all these little, most of the knife crime. With the knife crime, they've found that a lot of it is black. It's black on black, and there is, and even the black mums, you know, they come out and say they're frightened for their kids to go out. But it's poverty. It's poverty. And then what's going on with these rich people? Because you've got Sadiq Khan. He earns £152,734. That's his wage. When he came in, he had 459 staff. These staff, that, you know, now 654 of these staff are earning over £100,000 plus bonuses and benefits and everything. You know, they're earning that. Council tax has risen in the meantime by 9%. He's spent 22 million on woke art, you know, culture art, they call it. I'm sure that the kids, and they talk about affordable housing. Well, you tell me, after these kids, they haven't got 2 penny to, they've got mums, they've got no flipping money, they ain't going to be able to afford to buy a house. They want proper, decent council places, you know. But you've got this, they're creaming it. And then this Sadiq Khan, he's walking out and going, oh, Black Lives Matter. Black lives don't matter. They don't. And it's like you've got 13 black billionaires. 13 black billionaires. Put your bloody hands in your pocket. Well, this is what I was getting to. You talk about austerity, but you've still got money out there that can raise money and build these places. But they all point the finger at the government, and the government are pointing. So, you know, this ain't a black and white problem. This is a systemic problem of not looking after those you should be looking after. That's where it comes in. What's interesting, you know, in England, they say, it's really weird, 62% are white homeless, 14% black, 9% Asian, and 4% mixed ethnic. So where's the white privilege if there's 62% are homeless? 75% of kids in social care are white. Don't say a lot for white people, maybe, I don't know. You know, why all the kids are in their care. But obviously, if you've got 62% of white people are homeless, then 75%, I suppose the kids are going to be taken away from them. Again, the vulnerable. So, you know, come on. If you're going to look at the way things go, the ones that are worst employed is, you know, the Bangladeshi and the Pakistani. They've got the lowest employment rate. You know, they're the ones that have employment. And the worst of those are 16 to 24-year-olds. So why aren't they targeting to make these lives better? But it won't change. And you think, oh, this is a Labour council. Oh, this is Labour mayor, he's going to do something. Not on your Nelly, you know. They're just creaming it for their own. So yes, you got knife crimes, and you know, and I tell you, it really gets me because I was listening to this bloke today, and he was talking about being a Pakistani in London, and he was saying how scared he was, you know, walking past the coppers and that, if they thing and walk, and and if he saw a Union Jack, he used to cross over the road in case they were skinheads and stuff. And I really see where he's coming from, because my friend, he had excrement put through his door, and I thought, my God, that happened to my mate, because he was living in South London, and in South London, there was these big houses, really big houses, and they used to have like flats, and her granddad was driven out by black people, because, and they used to play loud music over the top of him and stick excrement through his door. Yeah, so this, it was fun. This Pakistani was saying he was doing it, and I'm thinking, oh, my mate was saying he was doing it to her granddad. So, and my dad used to say to me, because I never experienced my dad or anything, and yet I've gone through all the phases in London. He used to say, it's not race, it's good people and bad people. So don't put the blame. You don't put the blame. And it's governments. We've got bad government. We've always had bad government. But it's, and not only bad government, but where are all these pop stars coming out? Everybody's going, wow, all the pop stars all coming out with their money, and they're and all saying, oh, and going on one knee, going on one knee, putting all the things. Where's the money, mate? Get your hand in your pocket if you want to help. Open up some centres for these kids. You can say all about slave. I'll give you a thing. You can say all about the slave. With the slaves, they made their money out of slavery and everything. Yes, it's crap. It's a crap way to do it. But the bloke, that Colston, who they chucked in the river, he built Bristol. He built Bristol with the money that he got. I'm just saying, well, that was it. So didn't make him a good man what he was doing, but he was only doing what everybody was doing at the time. Where's the philanthropy now? If everybody put all their money, into a bit of a bung and put it all in, and then they could maybe build better homes for these kids, better facilities for the kids. But you don't get that now. You just get a load of weaning and whining and going, oh, it's so sad, they're so hard done by. I'll go back to my big mansion now. If you think about it, whenever immigrants are sent over, they very seldom end up in the posh areas, because all these posh areas where these people live, they're all gated up. So, but at the same time, you have to look at when they start. This chap, it all started in America, and it was the chap you can't imagine, can you? Somebody kneeling on your throat for 8 minutes. This chap, he that did this. You lose your right to be human. I think you lose the right to call yourself a human being if you can kneel on somebody's neck for that long. But at the same time, do you know, why are you making a martyr out of the chap that that you killed? I've got to ask myself why he is a victim. He is a victim. He's not a martyr. He didn't do anything for the black community. He wasn't Martin Luther King. He didn't do anything. He was a victim. And in fact, if you were to actually look at him, he actually could have probably killed a woman and a little baby, because he broke into a house. I think it was about 6 of his mates as well. And they ransacked her house, and he stuck a gun in her belly. And he had a record of drugs. He was on fentanyl and methamphetamine as well when they got him. So he had this like a drug thing. But no, they've turned him into some sort of thing. Let's give him a state funeral. Let's light candles. Let's all have a thing. You go, no, you you know, he's a victim. See him as a victim. It's terrible that he's a victim. Why do people have to have messiahs in order to have a good cause? You got to watch that. You got to watch that. I don't know. Past 10 years. This is in the index. This is actual police. The thing. Looked it up. Past 10 years, the death in the police custody, right? So this is an independent police thing, you know, where they have like the death in police custody is 140 white people, 13 black people, and 10 minority ethnic groups. Yeah. So, you know, the deaths, 140 white and 13 black. And then they talk about, you know, stop and search. The amount of the knives. If you look at the statistics of knife crime, it's all it's all black, you know what I mean? It's not all black, obviously, but I'm just saying, but you know, a lot of it is black on black. I mean, the mums are scared stiff. So if you're going to stop and search, you're going to be stopping and searching more black people. You're going to be stopping and searching to Chinamen, are you? So, you know, but it doesn't take away the fact that the kids in these areas, they need the help. They need to get out of this. They need. Do you know what I can't stand now is the victim mentality. Everybody's got to be a victim. You want the kids. They want to have respect for themselves. They don't want to be seen to be like, oh, you know, we're thought of as being lesser than the white, and this white privilege, and they think they're better than us. You think it's a load of crap. It's not even real. I've been brought up in it. South London. I've gone South London, North London, East London. And, you know, and I don't think I've never heard my dad say a racist word. I would, you know, I came away from Newham because when Idi Amin came, you know, the school was like, it was unbelievable round our way, and I thought to myself, well, I've just moved to where my sister lives, so I moved to Shrewsbury. I could have turned around and said, oh, and I think, no, it's my choice, I go. I don't hold it against that people would, you know, that they came over. I don't hold it against people that they. It was my choice to go. I could have stayed, but I decided to go. And if you're going to go down that bitterness thing, where do you end? Where do you end with it all? And if you blacks turn around and say white privilege, you go, no, there's no white privilege. I never had white privilege. For Christ's sake, I don't know what it is. And most of the people, I think they'd be insulted to say that you've got white privilege, because we're no better off in most cases. And yeah, I suppose I'm ranting on a bit now, but I think I've kind of covered it really. But I mean, the thing is, it's all about balance. There is racism, because you'll always get people that don't like anything different than themselves. It's part of human nature. You'll always get somebody with a grievance that won't let go. So, you know, but if you're gonna take the side of people, if you're gonna take a side and say, I'm sticking up for this side because you know, it doesn't make any sense because you don't get all it does when you go out. Look what's happened in London now with all these, the statues and stuff. How ridiculous is that? When you want to take the statues down, Well, where does that end? Oh, you're going to take all the films off. Oh, you've got to get rid of all the books. Oh, we mustn't use that language. Oh, we mustn't do that. Totalitarianism. You become a completely a society that you can't talk. You'll be scared to say anything. We're getting like it now. And you've got to look. The main thing about history is learning from it. To be able to learn from it. Because you learn from it, you don't make the same mistakes and you move forward. But you have to be able to look it in the eye. It's the same with life. It's exactly the same with your own life. If you're going to get bad and you're going to get good. But if you're going to always be bitter about the bad and not learn from different things that happen to you, you're never going to move forward. And, and really, I mean, and as for offending with all things, I mean, where do you end? Where do you end? It's there's one thing about just being having empathy for people and being respectful for people, but to go down on your knee, to go down on one knee. If I ever see those, to see people going down on one knee in lighting a candle for George when he's a victim. And I say, well, you're going down on one knee. What are you going down for? Black Lives Matter. And you go, what are you doing? What are you doing? What about those? What I said? What about those 100 odd things that are all homeless? They're white people in homeless places, and they're looking at this and going, "Oh, he's got a job. He's got a house. Oh, where do I come?" You can't go there. You can't. Once you do go down there, once you start picking sides, it's and a lot of it you've got to be careful as well. A lot of it because a lot of the Facebook and the Twitter. If you want to change things, if you really want to change things, you're not just sort of like wanting to go out for a day out with your placards. What you do, you get in a community. You have a grievance. You actually take it to your MP, and you push it to your MP and push it and push it and push it until he does something about it. We did it over in Knighton when we didn't want to have, I think it was I don't know where they killed the cows or something. I went with the placard and I waited outside the MPs. I mean, you can't do it now because of the COVID thing, but I was outside the, when they have their meetings every week, the MPs, what they call it. And I was out there with everybody, and I would have gone out there all the time just to make his life a bloody misery until they did something about it. That's how you change communities. And you look into things as well. You say, like Sadiq Khan, how comes you're paying these people? Be accountable. You can march through the streets till kingdom come, and all they're doing up there is just laughing their socks off at you. And while this is all going on, just watch out for what's coming along the road now. Is you're like the new reset. Oh, this is the new thing. And we're so gullible because while you're looking, you find in life that when you're looking one way, something's coming the other, and they don't want you to see it. So this is the new World Economic Forum, and it's such lovely language they use. Oh, it's beautiful. It's necessary to build a new social contract that honours the dignity of every human being. Doesn't that sound lovely? They haven't done a good job so far, have they? And who are these stakeholders of this new global society that are going to help us? Well, there's the Chief Executive Officer of MasterCard, Marshall, the chairman of the Green Finance Committee, oh, well, the Greens are going to get in, aren't they? China Society for Finance Banking and a member of the Monetary Policy Committee of the People's Bank of China. Right, executive officer of BP United. Oh, yeah, they all put BP in there. Oh, God, of course, it's one the president of Microsoft. Oh, but no, but they're not having any people. Unless you've got big business, you can't be a member of this society that is going to bring in the fourth, what do they call it? Fourth industrial revolution sort of thing, the fourth revolution. They're going to bring this in, and it's called the New Reset. And while we're all marching through the streets, this is what's going to happen. They're going to change the society while you're not looking. Just thought I'd put that in there. So anyway, I'm going to shut up now because, but just get a bit of balance. Bit of balance. Don't be taken for a ride. It's good. It's good to have. It's good to have empathy. Just be nice to people, but be nice to everybody, and don't judge people. Do not judge. Do not judge people, lest you be judged at the end of the day.